For United WFC Twitter Live. It's the Ben and Matt Saturday Night Live show coming to you once again from wherever the hell you are, really. You know, wherever you're watching us, in your living rooms, in your kitchens, in your bathrooms, I really don't care. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host, Matt Crane. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, not bad, pal. A little bit tired. First week back in school and all that's chaos, but hey ho, we keep going.
Yeah, many of us, including Gareth, or many of you, shall we say, including Gareth, like to call us the Ant and Deck of this particular show. So we're delighted tonight to be joined by Manchester's very own Cat Dealey. Gareth, how are you, sir?
Well, I was great until you compared me to Cat Dealey, but she's a great co-host.
It's those beautiful long blonde locks you've got, lad. Yeah. Even though it's slicked back today, you know.
Cat D is a fantastic broadcaster, so yeah, I'll take it, and I'll run with it. Thank you.
Oh my days!
Here we go. There you are. Look.
No, we said Cat Dealey.
Yeah, well, but you know, Stephen Murnerd as well. That'll do. He's always with Ant and Deck, isn't he? Anyway, this show tonight is all about goalkeepers. And the goalkeeping situation at Manchester United for both the men's and the women's side, and goalkeeping in general, really. And what I'm going to start off with is a very simple question. I'm going to go to Cat Dealey first. Gareth first with this. Is goalkeeping the hardest position on the football pitch, do you think? Gareth.
I don't know if it's the hardest. It's definitely the most kind of high-pressure position, because you see it time and time again. If a defender misses a tackle, or a midfielder misplaces a pass, or a striker puts it, misses a sitter, well, they'll get another chance. The keeper makes that same level of mistake, and you're a goal down. So I don't know if it's the most difficult, because I think there's technical elements of every position, but it's definitely the most high pressure, where one mistake can have the biggest impact on the game.
Absolutely, Matt. Absolutely. What about you, Matt? What are you saying, mate? Do you think it's the hardest position on the football pitch, or do you think, as Gareth said, it's about the height? It's the highest pressured, possibly on the field of play. What's your thoughts on the goalkeeping area and position?
I think for me, I would agree. It is kind of what Gareth said. It is, I'd say, it's part of the high pressure. But I think another thing you've got to think about is that forward, for me, is also high pressure. I mean, you've seen. I'll give you an example from the men's. Timo Werner, that's come into Chelsea this season and been absolutely dire, coming for a big price tag. And I think for me, if you're not scoring goals as a forward, it's just as high pressured as a keeper, even make a mistake that leads to a goal, or conceding goals. So I think you could look at it both ways, really. But it is, I'd agree, it is high pressured, especially at a club like Man United. There's a lot of kind of scrutiny that comes with that sort of job, and there's a lot of fan opinion and sort of comments. But yes, it's one of them for me. You've got to have a great mindset to be a goalkeeper. Some might say you've got to be a little bit mad as well. I know Siobhan Chamberlain always used to refer to that, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely have to be a bit mad, you know what I mean? But chucking yourself around on muddy pitches and hard pitches in the summer, hurting yourselves at times. But, it's good fun, mate. I love playing that position. For me personally, I think it is a very, very, like you both alluded to, very, very high pressured position on the field of play. And I still think it's the hardest position you can play in the game of football, because you are the last line of defence. You are the buck stops with you. Any mistakes that you make, you do a Massimo Taibbi through your legs and that, that mistake's on you. There's no one behind you to sort of dig you out of a situation. It's not like a striker makes a mistake. You've got a fellow striker or a midfielder behind you to mop up your mistakes, and then midfield, you've got your defence, and so forth and so forth. And I just think for me, I think it is the hardest position to technically to get as well, because you've got to be very, very physical, very, very agile as a goalkeeper now. I think gone are the days where you throw the big person in goal, and is hope for the best, just save the shots. Now goalkeepers have to have the ability now to play out from the back, to have a first touch, to have a pass, to and to be able to use both feet comfortably. I think a lot has changed over the probably the last decade to 15 years in the goalkeeper position. So I think really for me, it's starting to get very, very difficult to be a goalkeeper at highest level, because everything of the stuff that's asked of you now is for a modern day goalkeeper. Anyway, moving on, I'm going to start with the women's team, because this is on the All for United women's channel, so it's only fair that we start with the women's team. And of course, we got the news last week, 6 days ago, that Emily Ramsey has gone out on loan to West Ham United until the end of the season. Matt, do you think that's a good move for her? And do you think she'll get much playing time there? Do you think she'll slot in as a first choice goalkeeper, or will she have to battle her way in and to prove herself first?
I think it's a good move. She was on loan at Sheffield last season. It got cut short. We have talked about, she's only played a couple of games this season, Conti Cup, maybe even one. Can't even remember. I know she played the City game. But no, she needs games. I think sitting on the bench as a young player, whether you're a goalkeeper or whether you're an outfield player, it's not ideal. Goalkeeper's one of them, unfortunately, because it's a specialist position and there's only one person that's in that position. There's not much room in terms of how much you play as a number two. So great move for her. She's going to West Ham. I'd like to think that, after a couple of weeks of training and settling in, that she can battle for that number one spot. I've not a clue who their second choice goalkeeper is, because I believe the first choice one's injured, but it'd just be good for her. I think if she can go out, she can play some games. I mean, listen, there's not many games left now, but I think even if she plays 3 or 4, it's 3 or 4 that she would have had over, staying at United. So, can't argue that one. I think the only weird thing was that, as per the typical Man United, was to keep everything secret. It gets to the bench and the commentator drops the name, and then you kind of like, oh. And like I say, they kind of keep it from everyone and then announce it a day late. But no, good move for all concerned, really. And I'm just hoping now she actually gets on the pitch and gets some minutes.
Absolutely. How about you, Gareth? What's your thoughts on Emily Ramsey's loan move to West Ham United until the end of the season?
Yeah, it was a shock, wasn't it? I mean, my football news isn't normally broken in WhatsApp by Craney, but this one was. So, yeah, I think it took us all by surprise. I think if anyone was going to go out on loan, we kind of thought it might have been Fran, maybe going back out, back to Blackburn or someone like that. But no, like Craney said, she needs minutes, she needs game time. And is she really going to get it at United this season? Probably not. So, especially with being out of the Conti Cup now, maybe in the early stages of the FA Cup, but that would only be kind of 1 or 2 games before we're against kind of quality opposition. So I think it's a good move for her. Again, I don't know too much about West Ham's goalkeeping situation, but I'm hopeful that she can battle for minutes. At least, like Queenie said, get a couple of games in and 270 minutes more than she would have got staying at United.
Absolutely. I think it's a brilliant move for her personally, because, as I said, goalkeepers, I think I alluded to it before, that you need to be playing. You need to be playing games of football. You need to keep yourself fresh and keep yourself match sharp. Your match sharpness has to be at the very highest level if you're going to come in. For example, if somebody's injured and everything. And with the devs not playing much football as well, there's not been much football or much chance for a goalkeeper, a second choice, third choice goalkeeper, to drop down into the devs to play week in, week out, to try and keep some sort of match sharpness. So I think it's a brilliant move for Emily Ramsey just to go out on loan. WSL club again. I know West Ham is struggling a little bit this season, but I think it's going to be a terrific experience for her to sort of maybe see life at the other end of the table, in the top flight, see what it's like to have a little bit of a battle, a little bit of a dice with relegation, maybe, just be in a bit of a fight, see what she's made of. But great. I think it's great that because we don't want her rotting on the bench, you don't want to not see her get any action or any minutes, very hard as a goalkeeper just to be sat there and waiting patiently for your chance, and then for your chance possibly not to come. Good evening to everyone that's joining us. Lucas, John Neville, thank you very much. John Foster as well, as always. Robert, obviously, with his Stephen Murnahan, bloody comparison there to poor Gaz. My next question is, do we need to bring someone more experienced in next season as a backup goalkeeper, or as someone to challenge Mary Earps for that number 1 slot? Because obviously we all know that Mary Earps signed a new deal until the summer of 2023 with an option of an extra year. But do we need to bring out a more experienced, maybe backup choice keeper, and allow Emily Ramsey and both to go out on loan for a whole season to obviously gain more footballing experience, gain more match minutes under a belt? And the same with Fran Bentley as well. Do we need to let them both go out on loan next season to maybe localish teams like your Sheffield United, like your Blackburns, so we keep a good eye on them close? Or do they both need to maybe make a step up to a WSL side if possible? Maybe for me, maybe Fran Bentley looking at maybe the championship level, and hopefully maybe Emily Ramsey a season-long loan at the WSL. Or do we think Emily Ramsey or Frank Bentley are good enough to be the number 2 behind Mary Earps? Gareth, what's your thoughts on that?
I think it's a difficult one. I think ideally we want both Fran and Rambo to go out and get minutes. But when you sign a number 2 goalkeeper, you kind of have the dilemma of, are they going to be willing to be a number 2? Because if we bring in a goalkeeper, that's likely what they are. We weren't going to give Mary a new contract to then bring someone else in to replace her. So it'd be someone that, if we bring anyone in, it would be bringing in a number 2. And then you kind of have the dilemma that the men's team have at the moment, which we'll get on later, of people aren't always going to be happy just to be that number 2 and play the odd cup game. So if we're bringing in someone more experienced, I don't think they're going to be kind of happy to just play that role as number 2. But in the same time, you want your younger players to get minutes, and the best way for them to develop is on the pitch. So I think it's difficult. I think there are positions we should prioritise before a second goalkeeper. But if the right one comes along and they'll be happy to play that role, I think like Telford at the moment is kind of happy playing that role at Chelsea. So if we can find someone with kind of that level of experience that's willing to do that, then yeah, by all means, bring them in. But if we're going to bring someone in to get unhappy in February when they're not played many games, then I think we're probably better put in that money elsewhere.
Good, very good point, that Gareth. Very good point, Matt. For you, mate, John Foster's it's put here. I just put it back up again. Even if she's old, just experienced until Rambo and Bentley is ready, should we bring in a more experienced goalkeeper, maybe of an older age, or maybe someone that's a similar age to Mary Earps, just to see what the challenge would be? Or do we stick with Rambo? Do we stick with Bentley? But for me, the problem is, because you've got 2 youngish goalkeepers there, I don't think the devs is giving them, even if they drop into the devs, like what happened to McCalson last season, before we all got curtain-tailed. So I don't think your goalkeepers are getting, especially at that level of Bentley and of Rambo, I don't think they're getting decent experience at that level. Do you know what I mean? It's not like the men's under 23s where you couldn't possibly get away with playing them at that sort of level, to try and keep them ticking over. I think these 2 would benefit from a challenge. But what's your thoughts on maybe bringing an extra goalkeeper in?
Yeah, I think for me, it sort of has to be done. I mean, I've talked about this over the sort of past 2 or 3 weeks. And Gareth's spot on. It's difficult to find somebody that's willing to come in and sit on the bench. And it's one of them where you look at, and I know he gave a good example with Chelsea, and you've got 3 keepers. Berger is a fantastic keeper. They brought in one in January, and they've also got Telford, who's sort of doing a player coach role. Now, for me, there's absolutely no point in our 2 young keepers sitting on the bench. Fran was in Man City's reserves before ours, played weekly, and it did her okay. She got weekly games. But I think for me, somebody's got to come in. I mean, comment there, spot on. Come in and challenge Mary. Now, for me, that's not somebody younger. Whether you get somebody older is it's a difficult one, because when you sort of get towards the end of your career, I think they tend to very rarely not want to move. They're quite happy, being a number 2, staying set where they are in their area and sort of thinking after retirement, with the only exception, obviously, of Karen Bardsley, who's just moved across the world to America to get games. But I think for me, I'd bring somebody in similar age to Mary. I mean, I talked about Sophie Bagley at Bristol, free agent in summer. Whether she wants to extend there, obviously depends on, maybe, I'm assuming, whether they stay up. But I think for me, if you're getting somebody of that quality, she's played WSL now for a number of years. She's not quite similar age to Mary. I think she's about 4 or 5 years younger. However, solid, dependable goalkeeper that's more than capable for challenging for number 1. But I think that's the way forward. As a goalkeeper, you want to be pushed. And I don't quite think yet Fran and Emily Ramsey are ready for, pushing her to the next level. That said, a young Ellie Roebuck, who I saw when Tuna was at City, she made a debut age 16 and she was just thrown in there. And then obviously their number 1 keeper, Karen Bardsley, got injured and they kind of just stuck with Ellie, trusted her, and she kind of learnt on the job. So, but I think obviously that was a different situation because it was due to a long-term injury and we were talking like 12 to 18 months out. And I think obviously we've got Mary having signed a new deal. So I think for me, Emily and Fran need to go out and play. Fran, like you said, Championship. Emily, lower WSL, absolutely brilliant. And I think, when they get a consistent run of games, we'll start to see them maybe a season, maybe 2 seasons come in and really challenge Mary. But I think for me, I'd definitely be looking for a number 2. But again, touching on what Gareth said, it is very, very difficult to get somebody that's happy to come in and sit on the bench or to move when they're towards the end of their career to, a new location.
That being said, though, like Gareth said, other positions in the team need to take priority. How important, Matt, or how unimportant is it to bring another goalkeeper in? Are we all right as we are, or do we really need to bring that extra body in, that extra little bit of experience? It is a number 2, or possibly to challenge Mary Earps. Or do you think we could get away with it? Maybe another season of having Mary as number 2. Having Emily Ramsey as number 2 and Fran Bentley as another backup keeper.
I think for me, it's not as such whether you can get away with it. I mean, I'm just reading some of the comments now about, giving young players games to go the confidence and, completely agree. Again, there's another one sort of talking about challenging Mary and her spot shouldn't be nailed on. Again, I agree. But when you're a young goalkeeper, it's hard. 1, because Mary's got so much experience. And 2, because, like sort of comments have mentioned, it is a confidence thing. And I think, if you're getting games, you're happy, you play well. But it's kind of, it's one of those, again, like I was saying before, it's quite difficult. But I do feel that if we can get somebody, we should do it. It's not crucial, but that said, if we look at it, let's say, for example, if Mary got a bad injury, and fingers crossed she doesn't because we're absolutely killed by injuries, but if she got a long-term injury, we've got Emily Ramsey and Fran Bentley that haven't played much since the first season, for me, we're stuck. And then it might become an issue. And then it becomes an issue that if mistakes are made and people kind of jump on goalkeepers' backs like we've seen this season, for a young player, that just kills your confidence. I mean, we saw the cock up with the FA the other day, didn't we, on Wednesday, announcing that Hannah Hampton hadn't made the Olympics, and then their manager was saying it affected performance, and it's one of them. So I think we do need to look at it carefully next year, especially going into Champions League. But we can't have, for me, 2 young goalkeepers pushing the number 1, because at the minute the number 1 just becomes complacent. And I'm not saying Mary is, but it could go that way. And that's when, you may see errors or you may not get the improvement. And we've seen it, I know you're going to touch it later. We've seen it in the men's game, loaned out Hendo, done a season in the Championship. He's come back, he's pushed De Gea. Seen it with, Luke Shaw, he's had competition. So, we've always talked about as fans, competition for places being very important. And listen, the goalkeeping situation is no different. It's just whether, 1, Casey sees it as a priority, and 2, if funds will allow, can we kind of stretch to get somebody in, as well as still strengthen the team in other areas.
Yeah, I left this comment up actually by John Foster, and he just said, based on what you were saying there, Matt, but I actually wanted to spin off this actually. Do we need a European experienced goalkeeper as backup to Mary? I was thinking that just now as this comment just come in now. Do we need a European experienced backup keeper, or will a WSL experienced backup goalkeeper maybe do if we can bring one in? Obviously there's not a lot around at the minute. Obviously teams want to always keep their best players. Gareth, what do you think? Do we need someone for maybe look at continental Europe, for maybe bringing a goalkeeper in? Let's maybe play some Champions League football.
I don't think Champions League is a kind of prerequisite for who we bring in. I think if you look at the quality of a lot of Champions League sides, they're not better than anything we're facing in WSL, particularly in the early rounds. It's not until you start facing your Atleticos, Lyons, PSGs that you get real quality. I think Sophie Bagley is a great shout. I didn't realise her contract was up in the summer. Republic of Ireland international, so has that experience of playing against good quality players. Plays in a team where you can be under pressure a lot with Bristol. I think you can often tell how good a keeper is when they play it. Maybe teams that aren't quite as strong because they will be under pressure a lot more. You can look at Roebuck at the moment, and she's unquestionably great. But if you were looking at her against Bagley, you'll see what Bagley's like a lot more because she's constantly going to be left open by that Bristol defence. So, no, I don't think we need a Champions League goalkeeper. But yeah, WSL or an international keeper for sure.
Matt's just come out in the private chat that Bagley's actually English, lad.
Don't out him like that.
Well, I thought I had to do it, mate. Since you put it in private chat there, I thought it had to be said.
Killed him on that now.
Yeah. Ouch.
I do apologise.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll take it. There is a Republic of Ireland international goalkeeper in the WSL. I obviously got confused, but thanks for outing me.
Welcome, mate. Welcome. Well, just before people jump in comments saying, "Oh, hold on, Bagley's English," I thought I'd just get it in there. Matt was quick on the ball there. Fair play.
Yeah, but I didn't out him in public, but never mind.
Oh, mate, well, someone would have done it in comments, mate, but rather me.
Well, if it's good enough for Phil Neville, it's good enough for me.
Of course, mate. Good old Philip. Anyway, gonna move on to the men's side now, actually, because obviously there's a lot of things to go into the men's side, and I want to start off with a strange one, really. Sergio Romero. And this is a guy that's been back up to David De Gea for quite some time now, and in this season seems to be frozen out since Dean Henderson's come back in. Is Sergio Romero being unfairly treated by Manchester United? Should he have been let go, maybe, if not in the summer, but maybe we should let him go in the winter window? Have we treated him a bit shitty, really? Considering what he's done for us, he's won us the Europa League. If you remember, he played enough every game in that competition and the final. Do we owe him a little bit more respect than what we've shown him, Matt?
Yes. I think
yes.
Just nice and simple. Yeah.
There's that. Yes.
I think for me, no. Sorry, I'm not going to leave you with a one-word answer, but I think for me, yeah. Listen, we kind of knew in summer, didn't we? Obviously, that Dino was coming back, and there was a lot of talk about him, coming in to rival De Gea, which is absolutely fine. And then he kind of made it clear into Romero in summer that he wanted to leave. They kept him on, fair enough, as they're entitled to do, as a third choice keeper. But I think come January, when there was more firm interest and there was rumours, I don't know how true it was, of clubs that had placed bids. There was the likes of Everton's and the Leeds and the West Hams that had all been rumoured to have placed bids on him. I think for me it was unfair. I think summer to January, obviously he's never got a look in, and for me, January should have been the time where we just said, look, let's just take what we can get from him, transfer fee wise, if anything, and even just to clear the wages. We've seen sort of getting rid of some of the players like Smalling now to clear wages, Ashley Young as well, give more recent examples, things like that. And I think for me, we should have really just let him get out to play football. Like you said, Ben, he's been a great servant for the club, won the Europa League, been a more than capable deputy for De Gea. His record stands up as well. His clean sheets and his shot stopping records are right up there for a substitute goalkeeper. I just think for me, the time was to move on. And now we've obviously kept him around. We've probably got a very, very unhappy goalkeeper in the ranks, which isn't always good for the dressing room. And obviously, I think people forget as well. And to be fair, I only remembered myself the other day. Lee Grant's still knocking about, still clinging on. I think more of a coach and a bit of a mentor and an advisor now. So, it does seem silly to kind of in that respect, although he is, like I said, a coach and a mentor, he's still registered as a player. And okay, he's probably never going to get a look in, but it does seem a bit bizarre to me to kind of keep 4 goalkeepers around. But I'm pretty sure he will be moving on in summer, probably like with a few others as well. But yeah, in terms of that, anyway, I was just shocked that January wasn't sort of nailed on for him going, really.
What's your thoughts on Sergio Romero, Gareth?
Yeah, I think he's been really unfairly treated, particularly this season. I think there's been times over the last couple of years where he should have been given a run of games, particularly when De Gea's form dropped off. I think when he's played, he's shown that he's absolutely capable of being a number one. He's played 61 times and kept 39 clean sheets, included in that, 7 games in the Premier League and 6 of them clean sheets and only conceded 2 goals. So he wasn't just playing against the lower ranked teams in the Europa League either. We played some top quality sides when we were in the Europa League. So yeah, I think he could have been given a run of games in the last couple of years. Henderson coming back, I think we kind of knew what was going to happen. But yeah, I think, like Craney said, I think he should have been allowed to go in the summer when it was obvious that he was going to be the number 3. But instead, we decided to kind of loan Joel Pereira out and keep hold of Romero. So I think, yeah, especially in January as well, that he could have gone then. But instead, he's going to kind of sit around and just train, and he'll leave in the summer. Probably go back to Argentina and win a couple of league titles there before he retires.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Just this comment here. Must be something they see in training that makes them think he's at number 1 material. I don't think that's it, because he's a fantastic goalkeeper, Sergio Romero. I think he's Argentina's number 1 for even when he was still second choice with us. He was still Argentina's number 1 for quite some time. I'm not sure what the situation is now with Argentina and their goalkeeping situation, but for me, I just don't think he had the hunger. I just don't think he had the hunger enough to challenge De Gea for number 1. Like you've seen what's happened with Dean Henderson coming in, laying down the challenge, to David's number 1 position. I just think Sergio Romero was a little bit too comfortable as being number 2. Whether he was happy at that stage of his career to be a number 2, and to, as people keep saying, his wages are pretty high to pick up a decent wedge of cash every week. I just find it baffling that for someone with such extraordinary talent as Sergio Romero. Because let's be fair, we always said Romero is like the best second choice goalkeeper in the world, And for me, I just wanted a little bit more from him. I wanted the times with De Gea were making mistakes left, right, and centre. I just wanted him to push himself, to go that extra mile maybe in training to go, Gaffer, listen, your number 1 goalkeeper's chucking goals in. I'm here now. I want to be your first choice goalkeeper. I didn't really get that sort of vibe from Romero. I always think he seemed very, very happy. He's just a number 2. That being said, we've also someone that I've not put on the bottom of the screen, and I'm not even putting my notes. We've got Joel Pereira as well on the book still. There's another goalkeeper that Jose Mourinho was a massive fan of. This guy, Portuguese keeper. He came with he's come with a bit of a reputation out the 23s. I think Mourinho was gassing up saying, "Oh, wait, this guy could be the next United number 1." He's another one that's on our book still, which I find we should have more goalkeepers than we do centre halves. It's baffling. But I think Matt touched on it earlier on. Here we go. Someone did say I forgot about Joel. I've just mentioned him now. Is he still in Scotland? I don't know, because was he at Hearts?
He's on loan at Huddersfield now, but he's only played.
He's on loan at Huddersfield. There you are. Just shows that I've done my homework on him, because I've forgotten about him myself until I just remembered then, and until I saw the comment there as well. But saying that, Matt touched upon it earlier on about Lee Grant. Now, this is actually, if you think about the terms of the order that which it's been this season, Lee Grant has to be the 3rd choice, and Ramirez has to be the 4th choice keeper. Because we've had Romero back for quite some time. And if you look at it, he wasn't even on the bench. I don't know if he's injured, but he wasn't on the bench for the Europa League tie against AC Milan. It were Lee Grant and Max Bishop, I think his name was.
Nathan.
Another young goalkeeper that we've got on our books. So I just thought on Lee Grant, basically, I think they're moulding him to go into a coaching role, whether it be at the end of the season or a gradual thing over the next season or two. Do you think that would be a good choice or a good appointment, shall we say, to bring a goalkeeper of Lee Grant's stature, Lee Grant's experience in the English game, into the Manchester United coaching staff, Gareth?
Yeah, and I think we've seen a few clubs do it. There was a year, wasn't there, where like Lee Grant signed for us, and it was around then or a little bit before, like Nigel Martin re-signed for City and Robert Green for Chelsea. And you kind of got all these previous number ones all signing for top clubs, and it was all a bit random. And I think they were bought with being a number 3 in mind, and then potentially, longer term with a coaching role, probably work in the youth setup and coach the younger keepers rather than being the first team goalkeeper coach. And what a great person to learn from. As a young coach, as a young player, you want to kind of look up to people that have been there and done that. And I think Lee Grant's a great person to be able to do that to. I don't think he probably won't play for us, I think, barring injuries. But even if we get an injury to Henderson or De Gea, I still don't think he'll probably retire into this season or next whenever his contract is up. But I think he'll be great. Just to touch on Pereira quickly, he is kind of getting to that point now where he needs to play. He's 24, so he's not. I can't remember how old Henderson is, but he's
24 lads yesterday.
Yeah, so they're the same age. So it's not as though that Pereira can kind of sit and wait for a spot to open up, because it's not going to. And if he's not playing for Huddersfield, then he's tall, he's massive, he looks like a goalkeeper. But if he's not playing for Huddersfield in a kind of scrappy Championship relegation fight, then is he really actually good enough for us? And like you mentioned, we've got a load of goalkeepers, so I think we need to be a bit cutthroat for the next kind of 18 months and kind of refine it a bit and go from there.
Do you want to put this comment back up about Kovar? I know someone else is a massive fan of Kovar is David Pritt, who obviously people know who David Pritt is. He watches United at every level, and including men's and women's as well, at every level of the game you can think of. And I know David Pritt, big shout out to David Pritt, by the way, he's a massive fan of Kovar. And there is another goalkeeper. It's a very interesting situation at United, because I've never known United to bring through so many goalkeepers, have so many goalkeepers on their books at one point, because this Kovar is a talent as well. It's be interesting to see what happens with him in the next couple of years. Matt, mate, back on to the Lee Grant situation. What do you think will happen to him? Do you reckon he'll be phased out and brought into the coaching staff? Or do you think maybe we'd probably sell him on at the end of the season, get whatever money we can get for him, or if we get a fee for him, that is. I don't think we'll get much. And maybe he has a little swan song, maybe in the Championship or something for a season, or do you think it's nailed on that he's going into the coaching staff?
No, I think it's nailed on he's going to the coaching staff. Like Gareth talked very well on. We've seen it before, to give more examples. Richard Wright went to Man City, as did Scott Carson, actually. I don't know if Scott's still there. Both, first of all, to fill the English quota, and the second of all, to look at that coaching role. And I think Richard Wright is now actually their goalkeeping coach. Could be wrong on that, but either way, he was. But no, I think Lee was signed, as some sort of people have said in the comments, Lee was signed with a sort of a mentoring player coach type role, although it's not officially confirmed as player coach. Or was it the other day? Can't think, when we saw him doing the substitutes on the bench. But no, I think, good person. He's a massive experience within Championship and lower down. Be the great mentor like you've touched on for Kovar and Nathan Bishop, not Max, just to out your back.
Yeah, I know. I was about
not
myself
Max
after
Bishop,
this.
Nathan Bishop.
You've done it. Don't know where I've got Max from, by the way, but yeah.
And Nathan, I believe, has been trained with the first team. So they've even had him ahead of Sergio Romero within that sort of training group. He's sort of trained as like the 3rd/4th choice keeper. So again, you know, who better to learn from than Lee Grant? Like I said, the guy, Lee Grant, must have easily 300, 400, 500 appearances throughout his career. He's getting on. Wouldn't surprise me if come summer, you know, they said, right, you're the permanent coach. I think, like Gareth said, Joel for me now, I think he'll be gone in summer with Romero. I really do. You know, like I said, 24. I think he must have played once, if that, for Huddersfield. I think they had an injury or the keeper got sent off and he played something like that. So
yeah, he's played once.
Yeah, for me, you know, 24, you're at that age now where you do need to start going out and playing football. I mean, like you alluded to, Ben, you know, Hendo's just turned 24 and he's already unhappy at being number 2. You know, you want to be playing weekly. Yeah, it was one of them. It worked out well for Joel in Scotland. I mean, it's a tin pot league, so he might be best in somewhere like a League One or a Championship. But it's going to be interesting in summer. Like you touched on, you know, there is a big sort of, you know, load of goalkeepers at the club. Obviously, you said you've got, you know, Kovar to come back, who's had a very good season at Swindon. He's played most of their games, I believe. So, yeah, I think for me, Lee Grant, he won't be sold. I think you'd be looking to get a Fredo for him or something like that. Fredo and a, you know, price of a Fredo for your goalkeeper. But no, I could see it. I really could. You know, I think it'd be great. Work alongside the reserves, work with Bishop, work with Kovar, and any other sort of young keepers that are up and coming. And, you know, what better person to sort of go to and get that experience from than Lee Grant. And listen, if he's involved in the first team as well, then happy days. I'm sure he's got some knowledge and some wisdom that he can be passing on. But, you know, definitely it's got to be worth a try, hasn't it? Try out, see how it works out. If it turns out he's half decent coach, then fair enough. But just because you've had a decent playing career doesn't necessarily make you a decent coach.
Absolutely. And on Bishop, though, I've noticed last season he was training with the first team a lot. We'd bring him as like an extra body, you know, to train with with David De Gea and with Sergio Romero. Even though he wasn't named on the bench, he just came along and he was doing the warm-ups with them and everything. So it looks like we had him in mind to do something, but again with Bishop, I can't see where what's going to happen with that lad. I think he might be moved on in the summer as well, just to give the lads some football. Whether it be a loan or whether it be him.
Yeah, I think for me it'd be a loan. I mean, he's only, 20, 21-ish. Don't think he's much older than that. So I think for me, he'll probably get a loan next year. I think obviously he signed into last season from Southend. I think for me now it would be just kind of sink or swim, loan him out, see what happens, and then bring him back. Might even end up in the 23s or whatever they call it these days, the reserves. But yeah, should be interesting. But I can't see us writing him off yet, having only been here for sort of this being, you know, his second season. Second full season.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, to move on to the big showdown now. Who should be Manchester United's first choice keeper for the men's side? David De Gea, who, let's be fair, won 4 St Matt Busby Player of the Year awards, mate. Very unheard of for a goalkeeper to even win 1, let alone 4. But that just shows you how much the guy saved our bacon time and time again. But especially in the tough seasons under Van Gaal, under Mourinho, under Moyes, when he started becoming absolutely top draw keeper. And over the last few seasons, it's not really worked out well for him in some games. He's dropping clangers. He's making mistakes. He's not been the same keeper since the World Cup in Russia. I don't know whether it's having a mental effect on him still, but I don't know. He just doesn't seem as confident. He seems a shadow of his former self for me. And then you've got the young pretender. You've got Dean Henderson, you know, the guy that is absolutely wants to be number 1. I've never seen someone with the hunger and desire to be number 1 as a second choice goalkeeper in a very long time at Manchester United. In fact, I don't even remember this sort of situation because I think under Schmeichel we have Raymond van der Houw happy as number 2. Van der Sar, he had a few, you know, your Ben Fosters, you had your your Thomas Kuszaks, Now, again, Ben Foster was a young keeper, at that point, and he held his hands up and said the move came too soon for him. He wasn't ready for the Manchester United move at that point. But of course, as soon as United come in for it, you grab it with both hands. You want to sign for Man United. But I just think, is this the biggest headache that Solskjaer's got? People might point out centre half issue, striker issue, right wing issue. But is this the biggest headache he's got, Gareth? His goalkeeping situation?
If it is, it's a good headache to have. I honestly, I don't know who should be number one. I think De Gea for this season, definitely. I don't want to sound like a walking cliche, but there is that cliche, isn't there, that form is temporary, but class is permanent. And yes, I mean, De Gea has made mistakes in the last season before. But look at the defence that was sat in front of him. He was sat behind a defence that was making sort of 5-6 mistakes a game. And if he was making one, that means I still think, even though he was making more mistakes, he still saved us twice as many points as he lost. So, yeah, I think De Gea deserves to have this season as number one. I think we've seen what Henderson can do. I'd still give Henderson maybe another couple of games. West Ham tomorrow. I know De Gea's coming back either today or really soon from Madrid. So, yeah, I think we give Henderson another couple of games. He didn't have a great deal to do against City, which, as great as it was, that match was really comfortable for us and it was great. I kind of wanted to see him tested. Against like really good sides. I think they're different goalkeepers. I think you've tweeted about it quite a bit. I know you've tweeted about it quite a bit. I think De Gea is a better shot stopper, maybe, but I think Henderson seems to be more confident coming for the ball. And yeah, so which of those would I rather have at the moment? De Gea, but it changes quite a lot. I could definitely see if we get a really good offer from him in the summer, then I can't see it happening, but I wouldn't be against getting some money for him. I can't see it happening though. I think the Madrid ship has sailed, and Atletico Madrid have got Oblak in goal, and Real Madrid have Courtois. So I could have seen that happening if they had maybe slightly worse goalkeepers, because that's where his family is. But yeah, honestly, I don't know who should be number one. I think they both have really good qualities, and they're both quality goalkeepers. It's a nice problem to have.
Definitely is. For me, I think I'm a massive De Gea fan. Anyone that knows me, I've got David De Gea tattooed on my leg as well. I love the guy, man. Probably the best goalkeeper. He's up there for me with Schmeichel and Van der Sar. I know people might say he's not won as much. He's not Premier League title-wise. He's won trophies for us, But people will still go, oh, but Schmeichel won this, Van der Sar won that. Schmeichel and Van der Sar very rarely made mistakes, but even the Great Dane made mistakes, mate. Sometimes it happens as a goalkeeper. Even the very best keepers in the world make mistakes. Look at Alisson a couple of weeks ago. Was it against Man City when he gifted him 2 goals in the same game? It happens to the very best goalkeepers in the world, mistakes, And then people might say, look at Dean Henderson's against AC Milan on Thursday. Should he have stopped that? For me, he'll look back on it and he'll be very, very disappointed. He should have kept it out. But for me, it's not a goalkeeper error. That's a defensive error. Who was marking the guy? Free header in the box. Absolutely. We had everybody back in the box. Absolutely ludicrous, that, mate. Matt, your thoughts on who should be United's number one? And also, I want to chuck this one in as well. Hold on, when I can find it again. This one here, almost from Vicky, almost needs to factor in who is playing centre half as to who's best to play in net. Does that also maybe a good way to judge things? to see who should be number one? Does whoever plays in defence, especially the two centre halves, for example, Victor Lindelof and Harry Maguire, would it be better suited for like a Dean Henderson to play, knowing that he comes and claims crosses, that is quite self-assured, and that he talks a lot and he's very commanding? Or does it need like a David De Gea, who's very much all about agility and about quick, flashy saves, and it does basically whoever plays centre half, does that maybe give Ollie a bit of a headache to think maybe I should play De Gea because everybody knows De Gea, everyone's comfortable with De Gea? Or do we play Dean Henderson because his all-round game is possibly maybe a little bit stronger? What's your thoughts on that?
I agree with Vicky. I think we do massively need to factor in who's playing centre half, and I think what we shouldn't do is we shouldn't base our goalkeeper on who's playing centre half. We should base our goalkeeper on who's the best sort of person for the job, and then pick the defence after that. I think we've seen it with the women this year, haven't we? At times we've been shaky at centre half, and I think it can be unnerving for a goalkeeper. I think sometimes there's been mistakes in Maguire recently, or last few months it's happened with Lindelof. Baye's had it in the past, and I think we have looked a little bit more solid with the sort of Maguire-Baye partnership. Baye, for me, sometimes can still be a little bit rash in his sort of decisions and things he does. At times he gets away with it, but I think it's a difficult one because I'm kind of, sometimes I think De Gea is the best. He's got the experience, but it's one of them where Henderson seems that kind of impatient that I don't think he'll hang around. I think come summer, if he's not got guarantees of number one, he'll want to look to leave. Now, the problem with that is he's got kind of a free choice of clubs, so to speak, pretty much. And I think the clubs that are after him are all direct rivals, your likes of your Chelseas and your Spurs. So I think we can't have something like that happen. And I think for me, we don't want to, send him to a European giant like a PSG or a Madrid or even a Barcelona. I think that to lose him there would be a bit of a blow when we're trying to rebuild and compete back in sort of Champions League again. But it's a difficult one because I think, David's not old. He's 30 years old. And it's one of them, like you said, it's quite rare to be in a situation where there's two very good goalkeepers, each with kind of their own benefits. You talked about like David with his sort of his agility in his feet and things like that, and the shot stopping aspect of goalkeeping. But I think it's difficult. I don't think Dino, like I said, will wait in summer. I think he'll want them guarantees. Will David want to maybe sit on the bench? I'd say absolutely not. I think if you told him, I'm looking to play Dino next year and have him as number 2, I'd be very surprised if David stuck about. And then there's obviously comments of PSG and Spain and things like that. Gareth said Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid. Absolutely. I'd be surprised if he went there. I mean, after that, there's not many teams, is there? Maybe Sevilla, Sociedad. It's not quite near his sort of Madrid-based family, but it's options if he wants Spain. But I think we've got to be very careful, like, for me, like Gareth said, there has been a few mistakes from David. There's been times when Hendo could have been better, but it's one of them. Do you go with the goalkeeper for the future and take a gamble, or ask him, like Vic said, to wait another season and maybe at the end of next season then say to David, pushing on 31, 32, thanks for everything. But it's very, very difficult. David's been at the club now over 10 years. He came in at a massively shaky start, and he's gone on to be one of the best in the Premier League over the years, eventually. And I think for me, summer's going to be the biggest headache. I think we can get away with seeing the season out now as sort of rotating, but summer for me, you've got two goalkeepers that aren't going to stick around and sit on the bench next season. So for me, there's a massive decision to be made. Like I said, you go stick with your experienced keeper that has played in the cup finals, that's played the Champions League, that's played a lot for his national team, or do you go with the one for the future that's had a very good year at Sheffield, come in and done a pretty decent job. Like I said, there's times when he may have done a little bit better, but he's still young. So yeah, I think for me it's quite a big headache to have, really. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting come summer.
I also think politics comes into it as well. And what I mean by politics, a lot of football politics is that David De Gea's on 350 grand a week. Are you going to bench a 350 grand a week player week in, week out? I can't see it. I really can't see it. And to move him on in this current climate with the coronavirus and everything, who's going to afford his wages? and his transfer fee all in that bundle. A PSG maybe. There has been mutants of Paris Saint-Germain looking for a goalkeeper. I'm not sure Atletico Madrid had that sort of cash. Though he is an Atletico Madrid boy, he was there, wasn't he? Before we signed him. So could he go back for sentimental values? Maybe, because you are right. His family's in Madrid. I believe he came back earlier on this week, but he's obviously had to quarantine. Now, I think Solskjaer said he's not sure if he can make it for Sunday or whether it's Monday's quarantine's over. But I can't see him starting against West Ham. I think that's nailed on Dean Henderson. That'll be Dean's last sort of game, and then I could see David De Gea coming back in, especially in the league games again as the first choice. As much as I love Dean Henderson, I just can't see us benching a 350 grand a week goalkeeper. Who for me is arguably the best goalkeeper I've seen in a long time. As I said, he's up there with your Van der Sars, with your Schmeichels. I've seen David De Gea make saves that I've never seen any other goalkeeper make saves. The unorthodox way he saves with his feet quite a lot. It's a difficult one for me because I do think that Dean Henderson, and I've said it loads on Twitter, is the natural replacement for David De Gea. But then someone chucked a spanner in the works the other day, and they said that Donnarumma, the AC Milan goalkeeper, who's I can't remember how old he is. He's been around for years, and I swear he's not even touched 20 yet, has he? I think his contract's up at the end of the season, so a lot of people are saying Donnarumma,
Donnarumma's 22. I think the thing with him is, I think it's a tactic that we've seen time and time again from big players that play for big clubs in Europe, and that is he's a Raiola player, isn't he? So I reckon Rayola's just throwing his name around, so AC Milan give a bigger contract. I think what's going to happen is Donnarumma's going to sign a massive 5-year deal with AC Milan, be one of their highest paid players, and that'll be what's happening there. Sergio Ramos did it a couple of years ago, and I think that'll be the same thing there.
Yeah, absolutely, mate, absolutely. AC Milan will be telling, I think, who starts the AC Milan away game. Do we stick with Dino? I think we're going to stick with Dino for that one, mate, to be fair. But then we could just drop in David De Gea going because we need to go on and win the game, hopefully nick an away goal. We need to score, otherwise we're out. So, right. I know time's bending on. We've chatted enough about goalkeepers. This one from John is very eager, Matt. Eager. He's an eager beaver. He wants to know what's happening on Monday and who the special guest is, Matt. Someone that I know personally have sorted out. So I'll hand the show over to you, buddy.
Yeah, it's only me. There's no smoke and fireworks. It's just me that's a special guest. No, I'm messing. Yeah. So Monday, big announcement. We've had this kind of sorted for 3 weeks now. John and Nat have done a good job in sort of, hosting shows and planning shows. And more recently, I've kind of trying to be helping out a bit more myself with the All for United women's side of sort of planning and, as you've all seen, hosting a few shows. So Monday, we've actually managed to get on a former WSL manager and a former Championship manager to come on and got some good discussions lined up, actually. We've seen a lot recently on facilities in the women's game not being up to standard. We've seen sort of increased attendances when fans could go, ever since that World Cup. There's been lots on grassroots and accessibility recently as well, and sort of, encouraging girls of different races to come and get involved. There's been a lot written on that recently. So, yeah, Monday's show, before I reveal the guest, is about that. So we're looking at, growth and investment, increased attendance. How do we keep fans coming back? How do we attract new fans to the women's game? So it's going to be a really good show. Probably our best ever guest that we've had on so far. A couple of people have been jumping in my DMs asking, is it this person? Is it that? So far, everybody's been wrong. I've had people chuck journalist names at me. Not sure where they've come from. But, so Monday, 7:30, live on YouTube, we have Lee Birch. Now, Lee was recently the manager of London Bees up until January time. Managed in the WSL, he was manager of Yeovil. And prior to Yeovil, he was at the Millwall Lionesses job. So he's got massive experience within the game. Like I say, he started off at Millwall in his career, did very, very well with a low budget. I think they just missed out on promotion to the Championship. So he took Millwall right up there, had some great players for dropping in sort of United themed. He used to manage Charlie Devlin. Ella Rutherford was there at the time as well. A couple of Liverpool players, and there's a very good squad at that time at Millwall. And from that, he got the Yeovil job. Very unfortunate at Yeovil. They had massive money issues. Obviously went into administration and then got relegated a few leagues. Went to Bees, obviously last season, got them to the highest ever finish. They finished 5th on the points per game. And then this season, a little bit of a rocky patch and sort of parted ways. But yeah, going to be very exciting Monday. Like I say, Lee has been in and around the women's game for a while. He's going to come on. He's going to, like I say, talk about all those topics with us. I know he's been sort of quite vocal on the funding and the finance and things like that. So it was just basically, get him on. He was, very keen to come on to the show to chat, like the impact of United and United's fans, to talk about, funding and facilities and the women's game in general. So I think it'll be good because we can sort of interact, not just from a United point of view, but from the women's game in general. So we'd love to see as many of you there showing, your support as possible. If we've got time, we'll take a few questions at the end with Lee as well. But yeah, massively excited for this. We're very grateful for Lee for sort of giving up his Monday evening. And we will also be dropping tweets out for this as well, just to keep everybody sort of involved. But yeah, so exciting times on Monday. We're all looking forward to it. I know Natalie said she was a little bit nervous. I think we're all a bit nervous, when you get a very good guest on like that. But like I say, this will be the first time that we've had somebody that's been professionally involved within the game, sort of on the management coaching side as a guest. So like Victor said there, he's seen it all in the women's game. He did a bit of playing himself non-league, and then that was cut short to injury. But yeah, again, massively knowledgeable. He's a UEFA licensed coach, I believe, as well. So same level as Casey Stoney. And like I say, he's managed WSL. So his thoughts and his views would be, massively sort of appreciated and welcome. And I'm sure of interest to many, many people, not just United fans, but within the women's game as a whole.
Absolute banging guest, that, mate. Absolutely top-notch work there, Matt. Got to credit yourself there, pal, for getting an absolute brilliant guest on there for Monday night show. I'll have to point out it is on the All For United YouTube channel, that one.
Yeah.
At 7:30. It's not a Twitter live thing. It's on the All For United YouTube channel. Get subscribing right now to it, and click the bell notification and do not miss the show, because this show is probably going to be our best one yet. Finally, boys, because we've got West Ham tomorrow in the old Premier League, I just want to get a score prediction off both of you. Cat Dealey first. Gareth first. What's the score tomorrow, lad?
I think 2-1 to us. We're lucky in the sense that Jesse Lingard can't play because he's been on fire recently. So we're doing well there. No, 2-0. 2-0.
2-0. Let's go for a clean sheet for Dino. Good lad. Yeah. Good lad. Matt, how about you? Little score prediction for tomorrow.
Do you know what? I'm going to nick that 2-1. I was going to say that anyway, so I'm glad Gareth changed his mind. Yeah, I'm going to say 2-1. I think obviously talked about Lingard not playing. Antonio's not too bad. That Souček looks half decent as well. So they've got a couple of players that may possibly cause 1 or 2 issues. So I'm thinking, I'm going to go for a 2-1 win.
John's just joined us from outer Mars. Look at that.
Cat Dealey joke.
Come on, John. I thought you was sharp on the ball, lad. Now, for me tomorrow, I'm going to go for 2-0 as well. I want a clean sheet for Dino, because knowing that David will probably come back in for the next league game after that, I'm confident tomorrow. I'm confident. Without Jesse as well for West Ham. West Ham are going to be a tricky side, though. They're on the up, and David Moyes has got him playing, hasn't he? Good old Davy Moyes. Mm-hmm. Anyway, going to wrap it up in a minute. I just want to ask these guys to give you their socials so you can find them wherever you like to find them. First, we're going to be with Decorant. I don't know which one he is, but I'll let you lot decide, viewers, which one's Ant Deck out of me or Matt. But, what we're saying, Matt, what's your socials, mate, for people to get hold of you?
Yeah, on screen there, at MattCrane15, or Instagram is matt.crane15. Again, can be found there, mainly Twitter. It's just easier to talk. But yeah, like I say, give me a follow if you want to. If you don't, that's fine. Chat football, chat Man United. And yeah, that's where I can be found.
And Kat Dealey yourself. Don't everyone be atting Kat Dealey going, oh, she's been on some goalkeeping show with this idiot with a beard. Where can people find you, mate?
Twitter's on the screen, GT18_, and Instagram is GTownsend18, I think. Yeah, GTownsend18.
He's doing an Anthony on us now.
That's what I say, he's doing an Anthony. And me, I'm pretty simple. Twitter handle on the screen, Benny MUFC. Instagram, Benjamin Brazil. And that's about it, boys. I think we'll wrap it up there because it's been just over an hour. It's been a great show. As I said, though, next week, I haven't decided what topic we're doing yet because I'm sort of humming and hawing between a few. But I will decide for tomorrow morning, and I'll put it in a tweet tomorrow morning on the All For United WFC Twitter page. I'll tweet it out. I'll get a little image going as well. And but if anybody wants to guest on here, you don't have to be a Manchester United fan. You don't even have to talk about football. As I said before, you want to chat in general because the times are still hard. I know there's a little bit of a light in the tunnel, but we're still not there yet. Come and have a chat. If somebody wants Kat Dealey to come back on, please, at Kat Dealey on Twitter. Don't
show some love.
But yeah, if someone wants Gareth to come back on in the near future, please give us a like and that, give us a retweet, give us a quoted tweet, whatever, man. Just like the video and give Gareth some love, because he's had it a bit hard today, bless him. But yeah, so until next Saturday, everybody. I will bid you a farewell, and I'll hope you have a great rest of your Saturday evening. And for tomorrow, come on, United, give us the 3 points. See you later.
Cheers. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, and subscribe to All For United, yeah? Good lads and lasses.